Paul, commiserations. What ultimately was the difference between the two sides today, did you feel?
I think both boxers in particular talked about that, and we're striving to get better at it, but that certainly was the difference. You know, the first goal was disappointed because of his, he's not lying, he's got a head knock, he's on the floor, and ultimately it was Harvey that played them on to be able to score. So he's got up, and you can see he's a little bit or took a knock certainly. Like I said, he's not lying, and the referee didn't stop the game. And in the end, that cost us. So that put us on the back foot. First goals can be important. Who knows what would have happened otherwise? But frustrated with that decision certainly, because there were a couple of other moments in the game where he stopped play when injuries and they're not head injuries. So that was, frustrating. The second, we were his own worst enemy, as in we didn't clear the ball when we had an opportunity to do so. But I still felt we were in the game. I think we had quite a bit of the ball, and yes, to a degree they allowed us the ball, but I thought we had some good situations but didn't take advantage, whether that's poor ball, final ball, whether it was when it was a decent ball not getting on the end of it. So kind of frustrating that didn't feel like it was sort of 3-0 in general, but towards the end clearly confidence was up. When they bring in the players on the calibre that they have, and then it got difficult at that stage.
So how did you react with your players then after that?
I told them that they'd done some good things, but ultimately, like I said, in both boxes we have to be better and we have to stand up to it. We knew that the sort of threat that they carry in terms of the height in the team and the long throws, and for some of those we defended okay, and others not so good. But two crossing, but the first one's difficult. So like I said, ultimately it was a fact of Harvey getting up after a knock. So hard to be too critical on that. But also I want to see a little bit more fight towards the end of the game. I think we kind of got to a point in almost we know we weren't going to win the game, but you have to keep going to the last minute.
What impact did losing Danny Rose and Abu Issa have on this contest? I
expected them both to be available. Danny sort of trained yesterday, Issa did part of the training, but Danny kind of himself said he was injured, and with Issa it was a conversation, and I wasn't prepared to risk him for one game that could turn into a lot more. So I'm hoping that neither of them are too bad. We'll have to see. Certainly shouldn't be anything too long, but it clearly has an impact in terms of they've both been good performers for us so far. But you have to deal with it. I spoke before the game about Wrexham's squad as strength, and I looked at some of the players that weren't even involved today. Respectfully, we've had to put a youth team player on there in Cam Gardner, who deserves his thing, but I think that's kind of you can see a difference in terms of that strength.
Had you have been at your full complement today, do you feel it would have been a different outcome potentially?
Who knows, Matt? Who knows? I'm not going to, like I said, I'm too much on the players that we miss, because we have to get on with it. Yeah. So in the end it's a 3-0 defeat. It's never nice to any defeats, and by that sort of scoreline, like I said, in some ways I can see it and in others not. But they were clinical, and in fairness Jake has made a couple of other good saves. So yeah, no complaints in terms of them winning the game. But I think I still think there's a decent team there in themselves, but we've got to find a more clinical edge to us.
What are the injuries to Abu and Danny?
Danny's is groin, and I think Issa was his hamstring, I think.
Okay. And you, in terms of recovering from those in time for the next game against Crawley, what would you say the prospects of that are?
That's what I'm hoping. Obviously, and there's a few lads in there with knocks that I'm not quite sure. I know Toby was struggling, that's why he came off. I think Niall were just feeling something, Cam perhaps as well. So we'll have to assess them as we go. But this is what I say about the squad and being ready and prepared, because at some stage we will get injuries to players. That's part and parcel of the game. We've got to try and, I guess, cope with those better, albeit, let's be honest, we've played against a team that are expected to be right up there. Got some excellent players, very, very experienced squad as well, and that some of that quality showed today.
I don't know whether today's a good judge of whether this next question's a fair one, but looking at the broader picture, shall we say, you say you want your team to be better in the final third.
Yep.
How do you intend to go about that?
Work on the training pitch and understanding, but some of it might be off the players' own back, some of it is obviously what we've got to do as well. But there were numerous crosses that just weren't of the quality required, and when we did put some good balls in, I have to say that I thought they defended them well. But we've got to have that instinct. We've got to be prepared to make the runs, keep getting in there, and find that way to take advantage of a lot of sort of good build-up play.
Ricky Pike made his first league start for you today. How do you think he went?
Thought he did pretty well. He was a threat. Certainly, he held the ball up. You could see that he tired, but we needed him out there, of course, and hopefully it's a performance that he can build on.
How much is it a boost to get Otis Cowan back today?
Yeah, again, losing a couple of players, and he was kind of in my thoughts, but wasn't sort of too sure really whether we would use him. I thought he showed some good bits when he was on. He'll be pleased to get back out there, and again look to try and have another good week's training, and we'll see where we're at come sort of Friday, in terms of trying to get the team right and one that deserves to be taken to the field for the Crawley game.
And just a final thought, I know we chatted about Donovan Wilson on Thursday. Is he a long way off or not?
Donovan felt fatigued yesterday in his hamstring, so he did a little bit of the training and then was kind of pulled out, so that suggests he's probably still some time off. Again, the more training days we can get him to take part in, he'll always move closer, but I think in terms of actually starting a game, probably still some way off.